Well, the meltdown in Iowa deflated the momentum for those who did well, and it played right into the hands of the candidates who skipped Iowa to focus on other states. And that brings us now to the biggest wild card in the race, former New York Mayor Michael Bloomberg.
I hear something happened in Iowa or didn't happen. I don't know which.
Well, Bloomberg is hoping the other candidates split the votes in the early states to keep several of them still going, but exhausted and running on fumes before they hit the big states in March and beyond. And that's when Bloomberg plans to make his move. The New York billionaire is already spending a fortune in Florida, picking up endorsements from other former mayors like Bob Buckhorn in Tampa.
But you got to figure out who is the most competitive. Who is it that can pull independents? Who is it that can pull disaffected Republicans? Who is it that can grab those heartland voters who left the Democratic candidate in 16? And there are some good candidates in this race, some of whom I know. But I think at the end of the day, it's Mike Bloomberg that's going to be the best candidate to win.
Okay, please welcome Tim O'Brien, Senior Advisor for the Bloomberg campaign. Thank you for joining us.
It's good to be here, Craig.
So I understand the strategy of Michael Bloomberg concentrating on Florida, the delegate-rich states as well. But that's been tried before with another well-known New York mayor, Rudy Giuliani, in 2008.
Right.
Didn't end so well for him. How do you know the same thing wouldn't happen here? In other words, Bloomberg can build up a lead, and then his numbers just crater because he loses momentum from the early states.
Well, because we're not just in swing states. Right now we're in 40 states and territories. We have 2,000 people on the ground. We've got a robust and ubiquitous national ad campaign. We have the most sophisticated voter identification and turnout tool of any campaign. But there are 7 states we're prioritizing. Florida's one of those. The issues facing Florida voters are very important to us around the climate crisis, gun violence, the creation of jobs that are authentic pathways to the middle class.
You just listed 3. What do you think is the driving issue? What will drive voting behavior in the primary and beyond?
In Florida or nationally?
Florida.
Well, I think the climate crisis, healthcare are two leading issues. That's true everywhere. I don't think Florida voters are happy having green slime seep into their homes or their faucets. I think Florida voters are sick of gun violence. I think Florida voters want the idea that the economy here is an economy that embraces opportunity for everyone in the state. I think there's a diverse group of Florida voters who want to feel included in this political moment.
Andrew Gillum said the exact same things in 2018, and he lost. You have some key players from the Gillum campaign joining your team. Is there any woulda, coulda, shoulda? Do you think Gillum could have beaten DeSantis?
I think that race is irrelevant right now to where we are. We have good people from every campaign involved with us, and the reality is that Mike Bloomberg is a very distinct candidate. Of all the Democrats in the field right now, he's got the deepest background. He's the only one who's actually governed, and he's governed a very complex and diverse place. He has a long and rich track record as a philanthropist and as a businessman who's actually created jobs that provide long-term economic stability and real benefits to the people who work for him.
In terms of campaign strategy, is there anything that you can do differently from Gillum or Charlie Crist before that, or Bill McBride before that, Alex Sink before that? Democrats have a whole long history, with the exception of former President Obama, of losing the state.
Well, we're going to be in 20 offices throughout this state. We've got 100 people on the ground already. Mike Bloomberg has a very unique message. We're not looking to the past. We're looking to the future. There's a lot of Democratic voters right now who want someone who's a proven leader, who's a proven job creator, who has enormous appeal to the business community, who has enormous appeal to independent voters, and who's also a pragmatic progressive who cares about everything that Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders are campaigning on, but actually knows how to make the math add up and knows how to actually deliver these things in the real world.
He's changed parties, of course, as did former President Reagan, as has Charlie Crist here in Florida, so did Hillary Clinton. A lot of politicians do this, but why
Elizabeth Warren.
Yes. Why did Bloomberg switch from becoming a Democrat to a Republican during the George W. Bush era?
Mike was a Democrat for almost his entire political and private and public career. He became a Republican when he ran for mayor for the first time about 20 years ago. He couldn't get on the Democratic ballot. He ended up being very appealing to a broad swath of Democratic voters in New York City. After he was elected, he became an independent and then came back into the Democratic fold. I think Mike Bloomberg right now doesn't feel like the GOP and the Republican Party that exists right now is a safe harbor or a high quality home for someone who has his values and his ideals around public service.
Democrats have particularly struggled in the panhandle of Florida, particularly around the Big Bend. Where does Bloomberg counter that, and how does he gain votes in a section of the state where Democrats have been clobbered time and time again?
Look, we're going to be doing the same thing we're doing in every state, is we're going to be on the doorsteps of every constituency in this state. People of color, independent voters, progressive Democrats, moderate Democrats, faith-based voters, anybody in a rural area who's been left out of the American dream, anyone in a city who's been left out of the American dream, anybody right now who is worried that they don't have a candidate in the race who can actually deliver results and also take this fight to Donald Trump in a general election and actually win.
Tim O'Brien, Senior Advisor to the Bloomberg campaign, thank you for your time.
Thanks for having me.